Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Bower. I'm Ryan Stephan, Communications Coordinator for the Bower Center for the Arts. And this podcast is all about inspiring conversations, exploring the arts in our community, and shining a spotlight on the incredible artists, performers, educators, and organizations that make Bedford such a vibrant place. Today, we're diving into history with our very special guest, John Long, the Director of Education at the National D-Day Memorial. The memorial is one of Bedford's most cherished landmarks, preserving the legacy and lessons of D-Day for future generations. We'll talk about why this history still matters, how the memorial brings these stories to life, and John's passion for making the past accessible and engaging. Good morning, John. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, let's just start with, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the D-Day Memorial.
Oh, well, I grew up in Roanoke, so not too far away, big family. Just all my life, and I can't really put a finger on the moment it happened, but all my life I've just been fascinated by history and by the people around me who witnessed it. My dad was a World War II veteran, although still in the States when the war ended, so he didn't see combat at all. My grandfathers were both World War I veterans, and I was too young to really get their stories, but knew about them. And so as, grew up, went to college, majored in history, I just became very interested in being able to teach it and discuss it. And it's just been a fascinating career.
That's nice. So for those who have ever been to the memorial or seen it, it's massive. So beautiful property, lots of resources. Tell us a little bit.
Especially this time of year.
Especially this time of year. So tell us a little bit about what the D-Day Memorial offers to guests who are coming maybe for the first time.
Okay, well, we are large, and a lot of people show up and say, I didn't realize all this was here. You see the arch from down on 460. But you might not realize there's 50 some acres around the arch.
Right.
And a lot of beautiful interpretive sculptures. We have a new nature trail that can take you through the woods and, with some interpretive signage to learn about resources in World War II. When most people come, they come for a tour, and we have great volunteers who really know their stuff, who will, lead the public tours. Depending on the schedule, every half hour, every 45 minutes, more in the nice warm weather than in January, of course. But the tour takes about an hour, and along the way you learn not just about D-Day itself, the big picture, but also focus in on Bedford's role in the famous Bedford Boys and what they did and what happened to them on D-Day.
So speaking of that, can you just highlight what is Bedford's role in D-Day?
Well, Bedford was the home of Company A of the 116th Regiment, part of the Virginia National Guard prior to the war, so National Guardsmen from this area. And like the rest of the Virginia National Guard, they were called up into regular Army service months before Pearl Harbor, so while the U.S. is still at peace. But of course, that December, suddenly hearing about this place called Pearl Harbor and realizing we're at war now and we're not going home in a couple of months. We're in this to stay. So the Bedford the 116th, the Virginia National Guard, becomes part of the 29th Division. They're sent over to England to train for what everyone knew was going to happen eventually, this cross-channel invasion into France. They are there in England training for the invasion longer than any other military unit. So by D-Day, they are ready, they're well trained, they're well equipped, well led. And Company A in particular, which by 1944 was not just Bedford Boys anymore. The draft, of course, had brought in people from all over the country into the unit, but the captain was from Bedford, the main officers, the non-coms, who are in a lot of ways the most important people in the unit. They are Bedford Boys. And because they are so well led and trained, they're chosen to be some of the very first men to land on Omaha Beach. And as it happens, they land when they're supposed to land, they land where they're supposed to land, but no one else did. And all the German guns are pointing right at them. Results are devastating. Within likely the first hour of the invasion, certainly within that day, 19 men from Bedford are killed from Company A, one man from Bedford County in another company's killed. So 20 people from this little community. And that's, as far as we know, the highest per capita loss of any community in the United States, maybe in the world, on D-Day itself.
Yeah. So that's how the memorial landed here is our significant part of that story.
Oh, absolutely. Bob Slaughter, D-Day veteran, was had helped to found a foundation to put a memorial to D-Day somewhere in the United States. He was from Roanoke, so he was originally thinking of Roanoke sites.
Sure.
But in 1994, 50th anniversary of D-Day, met with representatives from Bedford County in the town of Bedford, and it was decided, we'll bring it here because of the enduring connection between this community and D-Day. And it's the right place. In some ways, we're off the beaten path. We're not by an interstate. We're not in Washington, D.C. But, this is where the National D-Day Memorial belongs. And people come from all over the country, all over the world, and agree.
Yeah. I mean, you say it's not on an interstate. It's not necessarily easy to get to, but there's a lot of people who make a pilgrimage here.
Oh, absolutely.
To honor their families, to honor the people that they knew. So interestingly, as a child, I did not like history until I had a history teacher who exposed me to the stories of history to make it a narrative. What to you is one of the favorite stories to tell about any of the soldiers from Bedford during D-Day? I know that's a highlight of that tour for you all. What's your favorite?
Oh, absolutely. And certainly we do, talk quite a bit about the Bedford Boys. But I also hasten to add to school groups or to public tours, we're not the Bedford Boys Memorial.
Right.
We are the memorial to all of the men who fell on D-Day, and kind of the centerpiece of the memorial, the real memorial part of the memorial, is our necrology wall, where we list by name every Allied soldier, sailor, airman that we know died on D-Day, just D-Day.
Right, a sobering wall if you look at it, that seems to go on forever.
Yeah, currently 4,426 names on the wall, and we're still researching, so that number will change over time. Excuse me. So I can tell a lot of stories about it. And actually one that springs to mind is not from Bedford, but from Roanoke. And it's Bob Slaughter's captain, who was a man by the name of Walter Schilling. And the reason he springs to mind is I've recently been researching, wrote an article about him. He was also a Virginia National Guardsman, rose up through the ranks, went to officer training and as a National Guardsman, found himself as captain of Company D, and that was the National Guard unit from Roanoke, sent over to England. And what impressed me as I studied Walter Schilling is the way his men looked at them. They were, a little bit terrified of him, because he was not slow to bite your head off if you needed your head bitten off. But he was also very dedicated to training, to physical fitness, to getting the men in shape, because he knew what was coming. He knew that this invasion was going to be one of the most difficult military operations in American history. And so he ran his men up and down the hills of the moors in England. He had them camping out in miserable weather. He had them doing, endless hours on the rifle range to be ready for this invasion. But on D-Day itself, Captain Schilling was in a landing craft as it approached into the beach, and either was hit by artillery from the shore or hit a mine. There's a little bit of debate over which one it was, but it blew the ramp back in, killing him and another man. So after all of this, training that he had done with his men, he never actually set foot in France till they recovered his body, and he's buried in France today. But I contend that what he did was essential to his success, training these men of Company D to be ready for what happens. And even though he didn't see it, he prepared them for it, and is largely responsible for the success of Company D, certainly, and the individual men who survive, including Bob Slaughter, but also, that little piece of the ultimate success on D-Day.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a great leader. Also sounds like a great teacher. I mean, his job is to teach his men to be ready. And
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, he had taught them.
Absolutely. Bob Slaughter, he was scared of them. And I guess to a point, you should be scared of your leaders.
Right. Scared of them and respect them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he did. He said in his book, in Bob Slaughter's book, I would have followed him to hell and back.
Right.
And they followed him to the beach, and it became hell.
Right.
And it's sad and ironic that Walter Schilling himself never got there, but his men did.
Right.
And I say their success was his success.
Yeah. So speaking of teaching, that's kind of your big umbrella as education director. Tell me about your programs that you have at the memorial, both for adults and for youth, in terms of education.
Absolutely. I often joke that what I do as director of education is stare at a computer screen and answer emails. But we have our main focus, obviously, is outreach to schools that come for visits. This spring, we are just wall to wall on school visits, and almost at capacity for the schools we can accommodate. Because of course we're a small staff. There's 3 educators. We can't do an endless supply of schools. We have to schedule them and make the arrangements, and we run out of slots. And what we're seeing this year is not only a very full schedule, but also schools bringing 100, 150, 200. I think our max is like 280 kids coming for a tour. And again, that's that presents problems because it's hard to move that many kids through in the time that the buses will allow.
Sure.
But the goal, of course, is to teach them about what happened and why it was important. And we give them a great experience, both in seeing some of the artifacts from D-Day, talking about the individual soldiers' perspectives, and then the tour that gives them the bigger picture of what's happening on D-Day, who Eisenhower was, what the Navy was doing, these kind of things, and ultimately culminating up at the Arch. And when I do a school tour, especially for a school from this area, I like to finish up by pointing out the view of the Peaks of Otter, in the distance.
Beautiful view up there.
Beautiful view, especially this time of year. And I remind the kids at the Bedford Boys who left from Bedford before there was even a war, what they wanted to do was come home and see that view and enjoy that on a beautiful day like this. And I tell them, turn around and enjoy the view for them because they never got the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I hope it gets the point across to the kids that the freedom they have, it wasn't free. It was won by others at great cost. And it's important that we remember that.
Yeah. I see one of the challenges starting to happen with an event like this in history is it's moving further and further away and less people are alive who were alive that day. Do any of those still come visit you?
Occasionally. We actually have a 96-year-old U.S. Marine who comes up to speak to kids about World War II. And of course, he was not D-Day veteran. He was Marine that served in the occupation forces. Mm-hmm. But he trained with the equipment that we show them. And so we love to have Dan Valerio from here in this area come up and speak to kids. And I tell the kids, you're not going to have the opportunity to talk to a 96-year-old Marine again.
Right.
Take time to listen to him, pay attention to him, shake his hand on your way out. And many of the kids, they ask for pictures, selfies with them. So it's a very rewarding experience. And we do occasionally have D-Day veterans, but of course we all know that day has passed. There's maybe 1,000 left in the country. And they're close to 100 years old, so they don't travel as well. But still, if a World War II veteran shows up at our site, he or she is treated like a rock star.
Sure, yeah. I mean, at the ceremony this summer, just to watch that parade, some of them still walking on their own was kind of an amazing thing to watch, kind of one of those more emotional moments that I saw that I knew that they had lived through that, and I was seeing it here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the 80th anniversary, of course, and we had what was the count? 12?
It was 12, 12 or 13, I forget.
Yeah, World War II veterans with us. 2 of them specifically were D-Day veterans, and both of them have passed away since then. So it's just another sober reminder. But as I tell people, whenever we have to report the obituary of another D-Day veteran that we knew and loved. Haven't we been lucky to share that moment in history with them?
Absolutely,
Because say my grandkids will never meet a World War II veteran.
Right. And I know I mentioned that for lots of people, stories are an important part of history to understand it on just a human level. I think another really important thing is the collection of artifacts. Can you talk about some of the artifacts that the D-Day Memorial has collected that may or may not be available for visitors to see right now? I know there's big plans for that coming up.
There are. It is one of the hidden secrets of the D-Day Memorial that we have a really large, really impressive collection of World War II, not only artifacts, but photographs, documents. And we have very little space to display because we're an outdoor venue. You can't display a uniform under a tree. So we, in our education building, we do have some display cases and some of our more poignant artifacts on display. But the plans are to build a real museum in the future. Obviously, it's going to take a lot of planning, a lot of fundraising, but hopefully we will see that open so that your visit to the National D-Day Memorial will not just be the outside tour, but also a museum visit, seeing the artifacts and learning more of the history. So it's still in the future, but we are working toward that. And in the meantime, we have great artifacts. One of the most poignant, especially speaking of the Bedford Boys and the local connection, is the Bible of Raymond Hoback, that I know you have a personal connection to this as well.
Yes, I do.
But Raymond Hoback was one of the Bedford Boys. He and his brother Bedford Hoback were both killed on D-Day. A few weeks afterwards, a package arrives in the mail to his parents, who are still grieving over the loss of two of their sons. And in it was Raymond's Bible. It had been found on the beach by a soldier from West Virginia. His name was in it. For some reason, Raymond thought to write down his hometown as well. We don't often do that. You write your name in the book, sure, but you don't think to write down I'm from this. But he used that, traced down who this man was, and sent the Bible back to him. It became a cherished family heirloom. Raymond's body was never recovered, or if it was recovered, it was never identified.
Right.
And I am not aware of anything else from a soldier who was missing, but an artifact of his survives. And the last remaining sibling of Bedford and Raymond Hoback, Lucille Bogus, donated that a couple of years ago. And it's now just a priceless part of our collection on display currently. Can't always be on display because, of course, things have to rotate in and out. And you got to think about light damage and all this sort of thing. But people could come see it. And I've seen people just moved to tears by the story of Raymond Hoback's Bible.
And I know a lot of people who are listening here know who I am. They know that Lucille Bogus is actually my mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. So Anne and John, two of her children, convinced her that that Bible that she was holding in her apartment and kind of had a sacred place in her own home. They convinced her that maybe the best place to put that is somewhere where everyone else can see and hear its story. So we were very happy to see her make that decision to donate it to you all last year.
And Lucille told me first time I met her, actually, it was 10 years ago. And she had said, that'll eventually come to your collection. But I understood it's a family heirloom. Right. You want to hang on to it. And the day would, I said, well, Lucille, when you're ready, you know where we are. If it's your kids or grandkids, they know where we are.
Yeah.
And
I know that the kids agreed that was the safest place for it. And
it was poignant to me that Lucille is the one who decided to donate it.
Yes.
It's, we had hired a photographer to witness her presenting it to April, and it was just a great day. And again, very poignant for all of us.
I know we've got Family Day coming up. Can you talk to us a little bit about what D-Day's Family Day plans are?
Family Day is April 26th, and it is a big public festival that will be educational, certainly, but also a lot of fun. So we will have living historians portraying World War II veterans. And interestingly enough, we've never done this, but I think it's going to get a good response. April is also the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. So we will have a Revolutionary War reenactor also there to tell kids about what happened 250 years ago. And I can easily make the connection because what someone was fighting for at Concord or Lexington or Yorktown a few years later, same principles that the Bedford Boys are making on the beach. So you can come and experience a little what the Army was like in 1775, but also 1944, and learn from the World War II reenactors. And then we'll have kids' activities. We'll obviously have tours. We plan an activity along our nature trail, which is a fairly new asset to the National D-Day Memorial, where they can go and walk the trail, which is just beautiful this time of year, but also like a scavenger hunt sort of thing, looking for answers to a question. And they can participate in different activities, making a Higgins boat, landing craft out of cardboard, and seeing if it will float, which kids love to do.
Sure.
And say it's just going to be a great day. So we invite everyone to come up, and best of all, due to sponsors and supporters, it's free. It's a free admission day. So bring your family, come up and learn not just about the history of World War II, but a lot of other American history.
Yeah. So again, if you need to write that down in your calendars, April 26th. It starts at what time?
10 o'clock. We will open to 3, and we'll kind of start wrapping things up at 3. But,
all right. So I would suggest get there early because parking can be a challenge sometimes.
Parking can be, and we'll also have food trucks, so you can come up for lunch.
Come up for lunch, take a tour. I've not actually been on this nature walk yet. It's on my list of things I need to get done here soon, especially now that the weather is turned. It's a great time to get out there. So I want to backtrack a little bit. So tell me, how did you get involved in history and museum curating?
Well, I have always been fascinated by history, and I grew up around World War II veterans. If you remember, when we were kids, they were everywhere. Everyone was a World War II veteran.
Right.
And I just took for granted that they had taken part in the biggest event in human history. But as I grew and started asking questions and learning from them, reading more, I realized this is an essential history that needs to be preserved. So, as I say, I majored in history. I ended up teaching history on the college level, including a World War II class where I would have the students go and interview World War II veterans. Back then, it was possible. There were still enough of them around. Then one point I was teaching both at Roanoke College in Salem, where I live, but also at Radford, which was a little bit of a commute. And I saw an opening for a museum position in Salem, so I said, I might try that. And got into the museum world as well and realized this is another way to educate, raise awareness. So I did a lot of local history for a while, including obviously World War II. But then the director of education position opened in 2015 at the National D-Day Memorial. I happen to know April, the president of the memorial. She's been a friend of mine for years through the museum community. And we had lunch, and I ended up working here at Bedford. So never regretted it. It's just been a fascinating job. And one of the reasons I took the job back in 2015 was that I knew the World War II veterans were rapidly fading. This is my chance to talk to them and preserve their stories while they're still here. Right. Now, the day is coming all too rapidly that they won't be with us. So we get to tell their stories for them. And we have told veterans that many times that, when you're gone, we will be here making sure people know what happened and, preserving the history. And they really appreciate that, I think.
Yeah. So you said you had 3 educator staff, correct?
Mm-hmm. Myself and 2 others.
Yourself and 2 others. But I'm assuming you also, like lots of other nonprofits, rely heavily on volunteerism.
Oh, very much.
So what do your volunteers do, and what are your volunteer needs? Are there things that you would love people to come out and help you all do?
Absolutely. We always have volunteer needs. And we have a cadre of volunteers, some of whom specifically work with our school programs, but also most prominent, what most people think about are the ones who are guiding tours. So on any given day, again, depending on the weather and depending on the visitation, how many kind of varies. But in any given day, we will have tours every 45 minutes, every hour, whatever the visitation calls for. And volunteers typically lead those. And they are excellent. I tell new staff take the tour several times with different volunteers, hear the different little nuances they put in, or this emphasis that this guide gives, and this one emphasizes something different, so that you get a full picture of it. They may be the most public because they're the ones guiding people through the site, but we also have volunteers who work on landscaping. We have volunteers who don't necessarily come daily basis, but they'll come to events like Family Day and help out with that. We've got volunteers who work in the gift shop. We've got volunteers who sometimes help out in the office, helping getting mailings out, or organizing some of the different things with our membership. So many opportunities, and if you are interested in that, we welcome. Please reach out to us. I can put you in touch with our volunteer coordinator. Some training involved, of course. If you're going to give a tour, obviously you have to know the site and learn the material. But we are wide open to people of all different interests. And if you don't like public speaking and don't want to guide around a tour of 35 people from New Jersey or whatever,
right?
Hey, we'll put you somewhere else.
Right.
Plenty of other work to do.
So what's on the horizon for the D-Day Memorial? What are our plans for the future? What are you building? What are you dreaming of? What are you hoping to get accomplished there soon or long term?
Well, and some of us soon and some of us long term. We last June, for the 80th anniversary, we got a Higgins boat, where we don't own it yet. We're working on the purchase of this from the owners. But the Higgins boat, if you don't know, this was the landing craft with the drop-down ramp that brought so many of the men of D-Day to the beaches. Not interestingly enough, the Bedford Boys, they came in on the British version of it, the LCA, not the LCVP, but many others came to the beaches on the Higgins boat. It's one of the most enduring symbols of D-Day. Problem is, there's not many of them, and not many of them made specifically by the Higgins manufacturing company in New Orleans. But there's one now at our site. So our most immediate job we're actually working on now is to build a shelter to display that. It's at the site, but it's under a tarp most of the time, simply because weather.
Right.
As soon as we can build a shelter to put it in and take that tarp off, people will be able to see it, there in its full glory. Then we also are planning, hopefully fairly soon, a motor pool to display a collection of World War II vehicles that is going to be donated to us as well. Then an amphitheater. We have in fact, from the very beginning, we've had plans to have an amphitheater on site for events, for concerts, for maybe an outdoor lecture of some sort for our school groups. I said earlier, we get school groups sometimes of 200 or 300 kids. We can't fit those in our building. So if we can put them in the amphitheater on a nice day and do our program, our education programs for them there. So that's also on the horizon. And then the long-term goal is our education center, our real museum that we want to be a state-of-the-art center where people can come to learn about D-Day, certainly, but the bigger picture of World War II, do research, honor their family members who served. And again, it's going to be spectacular when it happens. It's down the road because, of course, everything costs money, and we're a nonprofit. We've got to raise money. So, that's understood. But the plans are developing, and I can't put a date on it, but hopefully before we know it, we'll have that education center up the hill to display more of our collection. And we can get in a few cases in our small building and just welcome people from all over the country, all over the world, because we do get a number of international visitors.
We do. So a lot of people also know I'm at Beals, and that's one of my first telltale signs on a Saturday or a Sunday is I see people walk in with their stickers.
Right.
And I ask them, how was your visit? What did you feel like you learned today? It's always amazing to see how moved they are, because generally they're coming right after they finish the tour.
And let me say, by the way, because I hear this a lot too, you work at the D-Day Memorial. That's a great place. I went there back in 2002. I tell people, you got to come back.
Right.
It's constantly changing, but it's a whole different experience.
It's an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
And,
one difference is in 2002, your guide was probably a D-Day veteran.
Right.
And maybe even one of the Bedford Boys, because they had some of them who acted as guides.
Correct.
And again, sadly, that day has passed, but absolutely come on back if you haven't been in a while.
Right. And as you said, it depends on your tour guide.
True.
I've taken the tour, obviously, with my family who have their own connection and their own interpretations of things. But I've taken the tour probably 3 or 4 times from different volunteers. And it's interesting to hear different angles and different stories, different things that each one of those volunteers would highlight as they were leading the tour as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I always say, sometimes I just kind of lurk around a tour and listen for a few minutes.
Listen to see what they have to say. Sure. So we're coming close to an end here as I'm looking. Is there anything that you would love to mention or talk about that we didn't get to talk about yet?
Well, let me encourage everyone, find out your family's World War II story. Because nearly everyone had someone who served.
Yes.
Even if you're from from another nation, chances are very good, that there's some connection back in your home country to what happened in World War II. And preserve that, write it down, pass it on to your kids and your grandkids so that it is not lost. One of the things I always want to get across to school groups, but also to just the average visitor, is what happened on June 6, 1944 still matters, still impacts us. The world we live in is in the shadow of D-Day, of World War II, and things go on in the news every day that you can trace back to what was happening during the war. And the more you appreciate that, the more you will appreciate the history, and the more you can appreciate the personal connection you might have to it. As I say, my father was a World War II sailor whose war experience, as I say, was pretty mundane because he's still in training camp when the war ends. But there's other members of my family that served elsewhere that did go into combat, and it's fascinating to find out a little bit more about it.
All right, you've tasked me with my homework for tonight because I know that both of my grandfathers on both sides of my family were World War II veterans. I don't know much about their stories, and I should probably find them out before the stories disappear.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that you've given me my own challenge that I got to take care of now.
Absolutely.
And no one's challenged me to do that before, so thank you.
Well, enjoy it, because as I say, it's a great project.
All right. Looks like we're coming in on the end of our time here. So I do want to thank you so much, John, for joining us today and talking about D-Day and just this resource that we have in this town. And I invite everyone who's listening to make sure not only do you stop by the Bauer Center for the Arts, but you also stop by the D-Day Memorial and see what they have to offer as well. So don't forget, there is always something happening at the Bauer Center. Our spring course schedule is packed with some creative opportunities, from clay and mosaic to needle felting and drawing. Summer camp registration is also in full swing, including our exciting new afternoon Art Explorers camp, made possible by a grant from Centra. Bauer After Hours Line Dance the Night Away is April 11th, and the next concert in our series, Liz Chidster Duo, is on May 24th. Plus, all month long in April, we are proud to showcase both the middle school and the high school art shows for the Bedford County Public Schools. As always, if you need more details on classes, events, exhibits, and anything else, just visit thebowercenter.org or follow us on social media. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time at Behind the Bauer.